It is important to continue to talk about Stephen Lawrence because of how Stephen was killed, and also the way in which we were treated as a family, says Doreen Lawrence, his mother. Also just to talk about Stephen a bit more, so people can see he had a life, not just in death but before. Asif, Kapadia and James Gay-Rees' new 3-part documentary, BBC One, begins with Doreen. She is getting ready for her interview and taking a sip from a cup of tea while sitting in front of a dark grey backdrop. The look of the film is immediately arresting. The interviews are all filmed with the same backdrop, which is a little less dark where it has been lit around the subject. And the subjects are filmed close up, sometimes very close, so that only part of the face is visible. It gives a uniformity to it, and a seriousness. More like testimony than interview. Everyone is treated the same. Doreen and Neville Lawrence, family, friends and relations, various, invariably, former police officers. Dwayne Brooks, who was attacked with his best friend but then treated more like a suspect than a victim, features heavily, as does the Lawrence's lawyer, Imran Khan. Paul Dacre is here, because he is the editor of the Daily Mail, as well as once having employed Neville as a plasterer. Theresa May features in Thursday's final part. Alexandra Marie, who was a 19-year-old au pair in South London in April 1993 and who witnessed the attack, is also present, as is Marianne Jean-Baptiste, who played Doreen in Paul Greengrass's drama The Murder of Stephen Lawrence, clips of which are used here between the testimony, like classy reconstructions. Yes, there have been many other films about Stephen's murder, but none so exhaustive and meticulous. It puts it into the context of early 90s Britain, happy and soul-to-soul inclusive on the surface, but with pockets of hatred, no-go areas for people of color, more racially motivated attacks and murders, a BNP on the rise, and institutional racism coursing through the veins of the police. This first episode, called The Loss of Joy, a double meaning, because Joy was Doreen's pet name in Jamaica, puts it into an even wider context. It covers Doreen coming to Britain in 1963, where she met and married Neville and had Stephen. She found Joy for 30 years, until the 22nd of April, 1993, when it was torn away. Doreen was away that morning, on a course. "Dad, are you okay?" the 18-year-old asked Neville, who was staring out of the window. Those were the last words Neville heard from his son. Later that day, Stephen and Dwayne were at a bus stop, waiting for too long. You know how it goes. The passing of 25 years doesn't make it any less hard to hear Dwayne describe what happened. Then came a family's grief, no arrests, a breakdown in communication and of trust. It took a visit from the most famous man in the world, Nelson Mandela, for anything to happen. One of the most chilling moments in the first episode is audio of police interviews with the suspects. The repeated, cocky, no comment, and no reply, from Jamie Accord, Neil Accord and David Norris, as you would expect. But what DS John Davidson says to Gary Dobson is just as shocking. "Personally, I don't think it was a racist attack," Davidson says to the suspect. "I think it's incidental. Two black youths are attacked, unprovoked, by a bunch of white strangers shouting the N-word. Yeah, nothing obviously racist about that, more like incidental. Even if it was the last incident in Stephen's life, while some of his killers remain free. A quarter of a century doesn't make it any less pertinent or relevant, either. The anniversary is the reason for the timing of the film. But its broadcast coincides with the National Crime Agency considering a new inquiry that could see 4 former detectives face criminal charges. The investigation continues. Add to that the rise of hate crimes that Brexit and economic uncertainty have triggered and a resurgence of the far right. Meanwhile, people who came to this country at the same time as Doreen and Neville are being threatened with deportation. Stephen's murder asked searching questions and had a profound effect on Britain. The conversation isn't over, though. It is, as his mother says, important to continue to talk about him and about his death. Because it continues to be important.